Well, good afternoon, everyone from New Zealand. My name's Simon Tupman. I'm the host of the Law Chat series, a monthly series of conversations with legal luminaries from the legal sector. And this month, our theme is innovation and creative design thinking. And I'm delighted to be joined by a panel of three women from Australia, all of whom are having a significant impact in the legal services sector, at least in their part of the world as well. And they've all been acknowledged individually for the contributions that they are making. And if I can call on them individually, the first panelist or guest I've got today is Melissa Lyon. Melissa works with Hive Legal, which is an innovative new law firm in Melbourne, which has disrupted the legal profession by introducing value pricing, truly flexible work practices, and technology-based solutions for its clients. My second guest today is also in Melbourne. That's Karen Finch, and Karen is a non-practicing lawyer, entrepreneur, and legal tech founder, and she's the CEO of Legally Yours, which is an automated online legal marketplace connecting clients to fixed price lawyers throughout Australia. And my third guest today is Rose Cocchiaro, and Rose is the founder of Resolve Divorce, a boutique, nimble, niche family law practice in Adelaide. And last year, Rose was awarded the Thought Leader of the Year award by Lawyers Weekly in Australia. A very warm welcome to all three of you. Thank you for joining me on Law Chat today. And the theme being innovation and creative thinking. And I think this is probably a very timely topic for us to be discussing this at the moment, particularly on the back of what's happened around the world with COVID-19. But I wondered first if I might just provide some context to all this and call on Melissa to perhaps give us a little bit of background about her work at Hive Legal, how she got there in the first place. Because Melissa, you started off as a practicing lawyer and you were a partner in a law firm. Now a lot of your work is focused on business development and innovation consultancy and helping law firms and other professional service firms get the mindset right, if I can put it that way. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Thanks, Simon. When you asked me that question, how did I actually get here? I think it is a matter of actually joining the dots backwards in a way. Yes, I started off my career as a commercial litigation lawyer, partner in a law firm, and also worked in a top-tier law firm for a number of years as well, both as a lawyer and in business development. How I got to where I am now, I think it has been an interesting journey because I started, I suppose, very much in that lawyer mindset of what I saw my role was. I think I got on the treadmill. I think I got entrenched in the very traditional ways that law firms work, filling in the timesheets, doing what I needed to do to progress my career and that type of thing. And I really do think that it gives you, in a way, a very narrow focus for what you do. And I was in that mode for a number of years before I moved into business development. And I'm very happy to have done that because it gave me a much broader aspect to look at in terms of looking at how we serve our clients and the fact that we do need to be client focused in the way that we do things. Then I think joining Hive Legal and really being part of building a purpose-driven firm that has that real purpose of improving the experience for both the clients and the lawyers and the people who work with the firm really joined all the dots for me, because it was that being a good lawyer or being a good legal service provider, having your clients as a focus, but also providing a workplace that worked for people that were in that workplace, and also being much more creative and inventive and innovative about the way that we improve that experience. So I can draw on all of that experience that I've had in the past with all those different ideas, and now I really feel like I can bring them to the fore, and we can bring them to the fore with what we do at Hive. And I think it's an exciting time for the profession when you can pull those things together. So just one last thing I'd like to say is I'm very focused on actually working collaboratively and bringing together the skill sets that are needed to provide that innovative environment. And that's not necessarily just going to be the legal skill sets or the lawyer skill sets. It's going to be all those other skill sets that we find within our firms and our legal ecosystem and outside that ecosystem as well.
And out of interest, are you at home at the moment, Melissa, or are you, all three of you, back at the office, or what's the story?
Absolutely at home. So at Hive, our team can work wherever and whenever they want to and have done for 6 years. So for us, it hasn't been so much of a difference. It has been that extra layer, but no, definitely at home and continuing to work at home.
Yeah, great stuff. And Karen, tell us about your situation, because you're a non-practicing lawyer, you're very much an entrepreneur, and you started a business which isn't a law firm, but nevertheless is making a great contribution to improving accessibility for legal services for lots of clients and customers out there.
Absolutely. So just for clarification, I am at home. I don't have a piano in my office, so I'm still working from home. My children only just went back to school this week, so I'm still at home. But my story is actually a pretty interesting one. But and I won't sort of go into too much detail. But if I can kind of run through the major events, it will make sense why I'm doing what I'm doing today. So for me, it all sort of started this journey with my father, who was a serial entrepreneur and is still a serial entrepreneur, has lots of business ideas. And he actually, when I was about 16 years old, ended up getting into a commercial litigation with a major corporation here in Australia. And that litigation went on for several years, but with the end result being that we ended up losing the business and the family home, my parents, not because of the company that they were embroiled with, but actually because of the legal representation that they had. And it was watching, from my perspective as a young girl at that time, watching what they went through, I began to see that there was a real discord between lawyer communication and what clients needed. And, you know, for me, that whole kind of situation blew up because the lawyers didn't know how to communicate properly to my parents and explain processes and different things. And in the end, I think what actually happened was the lawyers put their own kind of needs and wants, and the law firm, you know, making the money and getting into litigation before actually the client's desire to actually come to a practical resolution. So this actually inspired me a lot to get into law. And I thought, well, I'm going to get in and I'm going to make a difference to the profession. And being in my early 20s, you think you can change the world. So I, you know, loved my law degree, studied really hard, got into a law firm, and found out exceptionally quickly, I think almost on my first day of practicing, that the business of law was completely different to how I wanted to practice law. And so I ended up leaving after a really short period of time, which broke my heart because I really loved being a lawyer and I loved my clients and I loved family law. But I actually just felt like I couldn't fit into that mold. And I couldn't do, you know, the billable units and the 6 minutes and all of this sort of stuff. So I ended up leaving and I ended up going into international recruitment, which was just exceptionally strange for me. And I ended up actually doing IT technology recruitment. So I remember at the time just thinking this doesn't make any sort of sense. And then I eventually had a family, did all sorts of things, different things, and Legally Yours came along. And the reason I've kind of gone back so far is that Legally Yours fulfills all of those young sort of desires to really be in the profession in a way that I can really help clients connect with the lawyers that actually put them first. So our network is only with lawyers that are fixed fee or value-based pricing. And they are the ones that, you know, I talk about and promote and support, because for me, it's sort of, you know, fulfilling that kind of young ambition that I just don't want any other client to have to experience what my parents went through back then. So that's what I do today.
Excellent. And so effectively you're in the middle there between people who are looking for a fixed fee lawyer, and you can direct them either geographically or by specialty towards the right firm in your network. Is that right?
That's right. So for clients, the proposition is that they no longer have to just Google, I need a lawyer, or ask someone at a dog's park, you know, can you tell me who a good lawyer is? They can actually come to us, and we have vetted our network to make sure that the lawyers that we have listed, and we connect them and match them with via 3 really easy steps. And, you know, we can make sure that that's there and they've got the experience and the right lawyer for them. So yeah, I'm really incredibly proud of what we've built with that.
Well done. And Rose, I guess you must be pretty proud of what you've built as well, particularly having been awarded the Thought Leader of the Year last year by Lawyers Weekly. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, so I was pretty honoured to receive that award, and I think that came from a combination of my years in family law and the impact and difference that myself and my firm that I've created have had on the industry. Just listening to Karen, though, I reflect similarly to Karen's experience in that I didn't get into law. I didn't become a lawyer to do what I very soon found out to be the expectations of a lawyer when you actually become one, and it didn't sit well with my sense of justice, but also my value set in practicing family law in a way that wasn't client-centric and was more about the egos of the lawyers and the billable hours. And so I spent a big part of my career, well, initially, if you want to go back, I started law, then dropped out of, but not the degree, but started working, and then went and started a marketing degree thinking that law just wasn't everything I'd hoped it was, but got back into family law with this real drive and desire to, I thought to myself, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make a difference here and do it better. But for a number of years got caught up in bigger firm mentality, litigation, all of this type of heart sort of breaking kind of work, and then just took a stand and just decided that enough was enough, and started my own practice. That was 5 years ago, and the idea around it was that we would be a resolution focused firm with a big focus around the clients' needs, their goals, giving them an opportunity to explore their best self, tell us about their goals, help them define them, and then allow the law to, their legal entitlements really to be, the focus shifted away from the legal entitlements and more toward their goals and the goal-oriented solutions. So we now have wellbeing plans that we work with clients to really focus on how they can have their best outcome and what that means for them, putting aside necessarily what their legal rights and entitlements are. So basically, the way I see it is we've kind of shifted and flipped the mentality of us as lawyers as not they're telling them what to do, but more about providing them with their support and guidance and helping them achieve great things for them. So it's sort of my way at getting back at all those lawyers that just don't do the right thing and don't take their responsibility to clients. I mean, there's too many clients that are vulnerable in family law and easily led by lawyers, and so I see that as a real responsibility of ours to treat them more respectfully and carefully. So that's our big motto and big goal, to sort of disrupt and have a bit of social change around law.
So, thanks, Rose. I mean, it seems to me that all three of you were well down the path of changing mindsets and innovating in your own particular niches long before COVID-19 came along. Indeed, you know, you've been doing it for 6, 7, 8 years, I think you were saying, Melissa, if not longer. But Melissa, I just want to ask you, I mean, in terms of the impact that you think COVID may have had on other law firms, both large and small, around the world, but particularly in your part of the world. It seems, certainly from the discussions I've been having, that quite a few law firms have been forced to make some probably quite welcome changes. Others might be struggling to come to terms with some of the changes that have been forced on them. Do you have any thoughts or advice for people who are trying to not just make these changes temporary, but to actually lock them in and do it properly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I hesitate to say that there are a lot of opportunities out there for law firms to change right now, because it has been a difficult time, and I think we will be coming into a difficult time in terms of the economic effects that COVID will have. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of mindset changes, I definitely see that there is the opportunity now for those firms who want to do things differently to have that opportunity to rethink, if I can use that design thinking type term, to rethink how they do things. And I think that the reason for that is that we've been forced to act in a different way, and forced in a way which doesn't necessarily, I think, come naturally to the way the legal profession has traditionally operated. So, you know, I often use the S's that I call them. We're very serious as a profession. We're very sceptical. And we're stuck on time, the whole idea of time, pricing by time. And so, and we're also, you know, we're very serious. So we want to do things in a particular way. So I think that what this has brought about is the opportunity for us to be much more creative in the way that we do things. I mean, you just have to look at the way that people have set up their offices to be at home, ironing boards, you know, and different ways of doing things. I also think there's a lot more tolerance. You know, virtual patients is something that we've been talking about a lot at our firm, which is people aren't now expecting things to be perfect, which a lot of the legal profession does as well, because technology sometimes does let you down and you can't communicate in a way. So there's a heightened degree of tolerance now, which is a good thing, which is great for innovation as well. There's more, I think, the opportunity more to experiment on things and try things a bit differently. This is also a very human crisis. So the idea of using empathy a lot more in the way that we work with our co-workers, our clients, our networks, very much comes to mind as well. And I think that will really help firms to think about how they continue to work. The other thing too, I think, is that this is a great leveller. If you think about how hierarchical a lot of law firms are, everyone at the moment has to work like this. Most people now have to work from home. They have to work in a different way. And I'd like to think that that can break down some of the hierarchies within the traditional law firm and look at how that works. Also, ideas can come from anywhere within the organisation, and we've got the opportunity now, firms have, and in the profession, we've got the opportunity to draw from those ideas that are coming from anywhere within the organisation, no matter if you're a partner, a grad, someone in BD, someone in know-how, someone in tech. Those ideas in terms of how we can work going forward can come from anywhere. So I really do think that we're on the cusp of seeing something really great happen in the profession if people take those mindsets and use them. In terms of advice, what I would say to people is grab those ideas now, grab those changes and see how you can design them to fit within the organisation to go forward to sustain them. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you don't have to think about what you're doing next and that you can just carry on with this, because we've all had to throw together a lot of different ways of working very quickly. And if we don't actually look at what they are and iterate them or change them or supplement them in the way, then I think we're at risk of losing the progress that we've made so far.
And thanks for that, Melissa. Just a quick observation too. Do you think the advice that you're giving there is easier for smaller firms to grab hold of, or do you think large firms, large firms can maybe by practice area or by department take these ideas and implement them across the firms?
Absolutely. I think I'm the eternal optimist. I think you have to be, in a way, to be an innovator. But I think smaller firms, absolutely, more agile, have been able to probably change much more quickly in this environment and do things and have the opportunity to have that cultural shift in a better way. However, incremental change is always something that is a good thing. I always think if you've got something within a firm or a group within a firm that can show the benefits of that change and then spread it out to the rest of the firm, all good. What I'd love to see more of is that big bang impact where you can actually have that cultural change, but I totally understand that in a big law environment that's a lot more difficult.
Yeah. And Karen, a lot of the firms that you work with as part of your network, how have they coped during this crisis?
Well, it's been really interesting for us because, I mean, our network is, because they price beyond the billable by their very nature, they've already been looking at, and this is for several years, similar to Hive, they've been working flexibly and remotely. They think more about their client, they're client-centric with their processes, they use technology. So COVID hit, and it was business as usual for them in the sense of the way that they were still delivering their legal services to clients. But what changed, and I think the profession hasn't spoken enough about this, but what really changed with COVID was the client, and the client has changed, and they will change for probably forevermore, because now all of a sudden you've got clients that have experienced the delivery of legal services in a virtual way. And so clients, law firms need to understand that, how they were traditionally practicing before is, the client demand is going to be, well, hold on, I didn't have to come in and travel in to see you in your office. You could give me a virtual consultation, or we could sign those documents electronically. So all of a sudden, I guess the view that I have is that the accessibility issue has really opened up, because the more that we've made it accessible for people to contact us in ways that are convenient for them, the more that we can provide legal services and open up that accessibility issue. And I think it's not just individual clients or small businesses. This is, I was lucky enough to chair a panel discussion at Virtual AltaCon last week, and we had a GC on there who was talking about, even from, large corporation and in-house perspectives, they're looking at their legal services providers now and saying, well, how did they respond in COVID? Did they go missing? What technology were they using? How did they treat their staff, and how have they responded? So I think it goes right from top, down. I think clients have changed. They've begun to see that legal services can be more accessible. So yeah, I'm like Melissa. I think that in some sense this has made the legal profession more human, and it's going to open things up in a really wonderful. The innovation, it's come out of the box now, so we have to get a hold of it. So yeah.
And Rose, presumably the sort of lockdown didn't impact you and your colleagues that much, because you were already doing what a lot of law firms have been forced to do as a result of the shutdown.
Well, that's right. So just like the others were saying, being a boutique firm keeps us really nimble, and we didn't actually need to change that much, other than give our clients the experience, as you say, of working with us virtually. So that was something new that we hadn't done necessarily before, but a big impact, I think, and a positive impact on the whole profession is people's willingness to explore more out-of-court resolution-focused options, particularly we noticed in family law, but it is happening in all other spheres, because of the fact that the courts were less accessible, and it was lots of trials being pushed out for months and months, and there was this real unrest around where things were at the court level. More lawyers were looking, and clients, for other ways to settle their disputes, and so we had a big focus on mediations, and mediations can easily occur virtually, and that's something that was a real spike and a rise for us, but also more people interested in collaborative practice and different ways of negotiating, and I think that's got to be a positive for the whole legal sector moving forward, because now the others that were perhaps a bit sceptical, as you said, Melissa, S for sceptical, were now more open to trying different ways of negotiation. That's just got to be a plus. So, but yeah, for us, it didn't change that much. But I think it's changed broadly the way people are thinking about negotiation and accessing legal services. So yeah.
And I'd just like to add an S, if I could, to Melissa's S's, which are probably a little bit negative, but I think COVID's actually added an S into the legal industry in a really positive framework, and that's S for serve. And that's what I really found, just sort of heading back to the question you asked me, Simon, was that for me, the lawyers that were already what I would consider sort of working in that new law framework have really push forward to actually stand up and serve during this time. So I found that, lawyers in my network were coming to me and saying, we've got to come up with different ways of how we can, sign documents now, and how we can do this and how we can do that. And let's do virtual legal education sessions for community and for business groups. And let's set up COVID-19 support business groups and all these wonderful creative things. So actually, I think that, serve has now become that big sort of thing that we can all do, that we can really show our clients that during this time we're here to serve, and they're the lawyers that will be remembered post-COVID when things start to settle down. So that's an ad. Yeah.
No, thank you. A very important point, I think, the spirit of service, because that's the whole point of it, really. And I remember years ago, as an aside, but some viewers and listeners today will know that I've often quoted the late Fred Hollows, who not long before he died was asked, Fred, what do you see as being your purpose in life? And he said quite simply 2 words, and that was to serve. And I always think, if that's the calling of a lawyer who's very focused on his or her role and putting clients first and foremost, then you're well ahead of many of the rest of the pack, I suspect. But look, there'll be quite a few people watching this. They may have a question they want to ask. I don't think we've got anything coming on the Q&A yet. But one question I'd ask is that, for a lawyer who might be saying, look, I've just been through the mill for the last 3 months. A lot of our old work practices have had to change out of necessity. I'm enthusiastic about the way forward, but I don't want to fall back into the trap of doing what we've done in the past. Melissa, what advice would you give for law firm leaders or partners, or even legal professionals working in firms, to say, we've got to keep up the heat here, and we've got to drive change forward?
Yeah. Something I often say, start with the problem. So what is the problem, and what are you trying to solve there? So, and how has it, how has that impacted how that worked? How has it impacted them? What are the good bits of that they want to take forward? What are the not so good bits about that they don't want to take forward? So it really is, rather than just sort of jumping to the solution of let's continue the way that we want to go, really look at that problem, look at how it can be solved. And I think the opportunity then is for it to be solved in a way which could have a greater impact to improve the experience for either clients or the people working within the firms, rather than just say, oh, we'll all work from home now, or we'll all do this way. You really have to think about what you're trying to solve and then work out the ways of solving it. So I think that's the point I was making before. Don't just assume that because we've changed the way that we're working, that's necessarily going to be sustainable going forward if it's not thought out properly.
Yeah. Rose, do you want to add to that? Do you have any views about what Melissa was saying?
Look, I would just say, insofar as speaking to the lawyers, that absolutely, like, what is working, but why are you doing it, and what is the purpose? It always comes back to your why, and I think, why are you a lawyer? What do you hope to achieve? Do you hope to serve? And if you do, then in what way could you continue to use the benefits that we've had in this time to create that better experience? So I just acknowledge what Melissa says in that way.
Karen?
I'd probably just say that, for all of this, and I often, when I'm doing CPD sessions for legal industry, I end with this comment, which is, as lawyers, we can only practice if we have clients to serve. So start thinking about your clients, because as I made the point before, clients have changed through all of this. And, the opportunity, I guess, lies, as things start to sort of return to some form of new normal world order, is that, we only really work with such a small percentage of people that have legal needs. Most people, the majority of people, choose when they have a legal problem to not actually go to a lawyer. And when you look at it from that accessibility issue, they're the people now that we need to start focusing on, to say, this is when so for Legally Yours, one of our mission is really to educate community around legal problems and legal needs, and how to guide them through to the lawyers that we know can serve them. So really, for law firms and lawyers, think about, well, it's not just the current clients that you perhaps in the past have been servicing, or you've provided legal services to, there's a whole other market out there that need us, and you need to start thinking about the ways to get to them, how to communicate to them, how to educate them, and how you're going to basically deliver those legal services to them. So I'd really encourage, looking beyond the traditional is one way you can absolutely tap in. I've spoken to thousands of clients over the years, and the number one barrier for them contacting lawyers is always on price. If we can get over the price, if we can start communicating that in a transparent, fixed, certain way, we can open up that market and we can really help them do that mission of service. So clients would be my view.
Good advice, I think. Well, looking at the clock here, I know some people will have scheduled just half an hour, and our half an hour has simply flown by. And I feel that we've barely sort of got into the topic, and I'm sure we could talk a lot longer. But let me just firstly say thank you for joining us on Law Chat today. And if people want to get hold of you, I think you're easily accessible with your websites and so on. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts. Before I go and we all say goodbye to each other, I'm just going to put the screen share on and let people know about the next Law Chat, which is coming up in a month's time. The date is, if you're in New Zealand and Australia, it's the 16th of July, and we'll be joined by the doyen of legal management consulting, Jerry Riskin, the founding principal and chairman of Edge International, and he will be with us at 12 noon New Zealand time. So if you're in the eastern seaboard of Australia, it will be 10 a.m. in the morning, and if you're in the UK or North America, check the time difference. We will be recording it, so if you don't want to get out of bed and watch it, then you'll be able to watch the playback. So that's it for today. Thank you, all three of you, Melissa, Rose and Karen, for joining us from Australia. I wish you all the best. Continue the good work and keep changing those mindsets, and I look forward individually to staying in touch with you in the future.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.